How many caterpillars does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is irrelevant, as changing light bulbs is not a function of caterpillars. Now, most people follow the principle of force. Even many who consider themselves spiritually regenerated as caterpillars transformed into butterflies abuse others nonetheless. These selfish so-called butterflies are merely winged adult caterpillars. Countering the aforementioned might makes right principle is the ethic of reciprocity, often called the Golden Rule, which is absolutely necessary for humanity to coalesce. The great philosopher Kyung Chayu, known as Confucius, 551 to 479 BC, taught, "Do not to others what you would not wish done to yourself." Confucian Analects, Book 12, Section 2. This teaching crystallized a core principle of justice. Confucius explained this precept with examples of misconduct to avoid, completing it with various examples of kindness, such as treating others as honored guests, constituting a golden rule. We should recognize the inherent value of our fellow sentients regardless. Without a God, people would do well to be moral anyway, as basic morality is an evolutionary advantage. Reciprocal kindness and consideration has proven beneficial in our natural world. But if you only act moral because of other humans or a God who will reward and punish, you would not exude morality, you would be a bootlicker. However, faith in God can certainly help cultivate morality amongst those who would otherwise be ambivalent towards it as a prodding factor. Atheists' ability to be moral without believing in God certainly doesn't mean we don't need a God to be moral. If there's a God, he undoubtedly equipped everyone with a conscience, which conscience we can choose to either exercise or kill, whether we believe in God or not. Although so-called Christians often fail to practice the Golden Rule, Jesus of Nazareth exemplified this principle perfectly. In his Sermon on the Mount, he taught, "All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them." Matthew 7:12. This teaching crystallized a principle of charity. Jesus explained this precept with numerous examples of kindness, completing it with numerous examples of prohibited conduct per Christian scripture, constituting a golden rule. Yes, we must treat others the way we want to be treated. But this is a general truth, not an absolutism. It is treating others with kindness and consideration whenever warranted. Common sense tells us to take other people's varying personalities, needs, and desires into consideration and adjust accordingly. Treating our kinsfolk in ways we would hate to be treated denies Christ's ethical teaching. As Christ preached fairness, ostracizing others and showing contempt without justification cannot be Christian, since we would hate to be ostracized or viewed contemptuously. Neither can judgmental condemnation be justified. Everyone following the Golden Rule would eradicate hatred, warfare, unfair competition, and every form of ugliness and evil manifested towards anyone. For those who hate being lied to or deceived, logically we must be consistently truthful. If we desire love, mercy, compassion, and understanding, we should be merciful, loving, compassionate, and understanding. If we were destitute or helpless, we'd welcome benevolence and help. True Christians offer assistance to the needy. Following the Golden Rule requires putting others first, being mindful of how we impact others, recognizing our errors, and making amends. Treating others as we'd like being treated may require mentally reversing positions with them, putting ourselves in their place, and imagining that they were acting and we receiving. And others should include all animals, nature, and Mother Earth herself. Brass rules. Most ancient philosophers had a limited understanding or brass rule, not a golden rule. Their philosophies denounced treating others in ways you would dislike being treated, negative passive prohibitions, while neglecting to address treating others in ways you'd welcome, positive active affirmations. Judaism's brass rule was unlike Jesus' rule. The Levitical command, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," was limited to fellow Israelites. Christ's parable of the Good Samaritan introduced universal kindness. This also contrasts with what Islamic theologians promoted, which was limited to treating others of equal social class the way you'd want to be treated. Their idea of what constituted distinct social classes was often unjust. Also, this golden principle is often misunderstood as treating others how they treat you, another brass rule. Even if we're being treated badly, minor offenses, two wrongs a right make not. We can choose a different path. Treating others better than they treat you is light shining in darkness. However, because anyone may follow the iron rule, might makes right and whatever I can take is mine, we must guard against manipulative people. Be therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. Unfortunately, people often misconstrue others' motives, imagining that they're being ill-treated, then purposely respond negatively. Many people label me as having bad intentions shortly after meeting me. Consequently, I'm often mistreated and negated, although I'm a loving person with good intentions. People who think badly about others create a self-fulfilling prophecy, eventually provoking and upsetting the person until they fulfill the bad expectation. You can only rely on direct communication to understand another. Whenever you use so-called intuition to fill in for unknowns about someone, you are guilty of judgmentalism. See Chapter 25, Communication Fails, under Testing Intuition on my website. Also, Christ taught his followers that God sends one-way love to everyone, treating many far better than they would treat him. This is called grace, unmerited favor. So Christ's disciples must not demand reciprocal love. They must treat others better than they are treated to honestly represent Christ. However, this never necessitates being abused or taken advantage of. There are many whom we must stay far away from and respect their being fellow sentient creatures at a distance. Others must be severely punished, as the aspect of life that requires our greatest love is justice. Stay tuned for part 2.